Hi, I'm Heather. Welcome to class. Today we're going to do a sequence specifically to balance the hormones and stabilize our emotions. Before we begin, if you find this video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe. This can be a good practice to do after you've finished menstruating. Because it involves inversions, we don't want to do during those first few days of our menstrual cycle. But when we've completed our cycle, then we can come back into a practice of inversions, and that can really help to regulate our hormones and stabilize our emotions. Let's start in Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog pose. So if we come onto the knees, let's stretch forward. Reach the hands forward, shoulder width apart, broaden your palms. Spread the fingers enough that your palms are broad. Establishing the distance between hands and feet, we start in our kneeling forward bend. Sometimes we call it forward virasana or Adho Mukha Virasana, downward facing hero pose. Then as you're ready, you can look forward, inhale, shoulders come forward over the wrists, you tuck your toes, hip width feet. Exhale, lift the hips, straighten the legs. With the knees straight, the arms straight, draw the sit bones up enough that your spine is straight. Then as you're ready, slowly work your heels back and down. And remember, the intention isn't to get the heels to contact the floor. The intention is to keep the back straight. So if the heels need to float a little bit above the floor, that's fine. Work with the lift through the sitting bones enough the pelvis can rotate forward over the femur bones so that the lumbar spine isn't bulging out. Can you move the lumbar spine in by rotating the pelvis over the femur bones, lifting the sit bones so that your spine is straight. Press the shin bones back. Open the back of the knees, but squeeze the outer calves in. Smooth, steady breathing. So as we establish our steady rhythm of breath, that helps to stabilize the emotions, creating a sense of equanimity within the posture, even though there may be a challenge to the pose. Let's come down, have a rest. Bend your knees, knees apart, big toes touch. Now you can simply drape the arms down here, rest your forehead on the floor, or if it's more comfortable, cross the forearms and rest your forehead on your forearms. Relax the arms and the shoulders. When you're ready, come to sit up. We're going to transition to Sirsasana, Salamba Sirsasana, which is the headstand. Now, clearly this practice is for those who are experienced with doing inversions. If not, I do have other videos on my YouTube channel that will teach you how to do a headstand, how to do a shoulder stand, etc. I'll put the link for those in the description box below. As we want to establish ourselves for Sirsasana, you may need to use the wall. You may need to take yourself to the wall, so you've got the wall there for stability, to help with your balance. We do want to stay for some time. Perhaps we'll stay 2 minutes, maybe 1 minute's enough for you. Maybe you can stay 5 minutes. So also consider if you need some extra padding underneath your head. Depends on your flooring and how thick your mat is. I'm going to bring in a second sticky mat, so I've got extra padding underneath the crown of my head, but I've still got the stickiness of my mat for my forearms to rest on. I've got my second sticky mat set up here. It's folded over itself and it's on top of my normal mat. As I said, use the wall if you're not secure about free balancing. You place your forearms, you set your hands. So the fingers are interlocked all the way to the webbing. the little finger side of the hand lengthens away from the elbows so that the outer wrist, that little finger side of the wrist, presses down into the floor. The heels of the hands are neither together nor are they dramatically apart. They sit apart enough that you've created a straight line from the knuckles of the fingers through the wrists to the elbows. It's not a kinked line. Make sure that these inner wrists, the thumb side of the wrist, are rolling in towards your head as you establish yourself. Keep your elbows at shoulder width. Bring the head down, crown of the head onto the floor, and squeeze the elbow tips in. You'll feel that the skin of the forearms rolls a little bit. Can you squeeze the elbow tips in just enough that you're not allowing the elbows to slip wider than shoulder width? Drive the wrists down again. Lift your knees up off the floor. Now you can choose to go up one leg at a time, or you can go up both legs together. It depends on your experience. Both legs together, you could bend the knees and slowly make your way up, or you can go both legs straight. Or, as I said, one leg at a time. But we establish ourselves in Salamba Sirsasana, and we intend to get steady. So let's for a moment bring the big toes to touch, but take the inner heels apart. Roll the inner thighs back without sticking your buttocks back. So can you press your buttocks forward, lift your tailbone up towards your heels, even though you're rolling your inner thighs back? Then, still maintaining that action of rolling the inner thighs back, bring your inner legs back together, ankle bones back together. See if you can maintain ankle bones, big toe bones in contact. Lengthen the inner feet up away from the groins. Peel the outer feet back down towards your outer hips. So there's a feeling of being compact in the hips. Then, much like we do in Tadasana, the mountain pose, press your thighs back, but press your buttocks forward. Go on lifting the tailbone up towards your heels. Maintain the pressure down through the forearms, mid-forearms pressing down so that you've got equal weight from elbows to wrists, wrists to elbows. And the shoulder blades are lifted. So you're maintaining length in the neck. Then as we intend to stay, we want to get steady in the breath. Ensure that your gaze is steady first. So set your gaze on one point. Steady your gaze. And then as you tune into your breath, see if you can slow the breath down. So we've been up for 2 minutes. If you need to come down, particularly if you're feeling discomfort in the neck. But if you're staying, you continue with the smooth, steady rhythm of breathing that helps you to stabilize, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Notice the grip of your fingers. Sometimes we're very zealous in the way that we grip the fingers and the knuckles turn white. And of course you can't see your knuckles, but if you're gripping so much through the fingers, your knuckles will most likely be turning white. That's an indication that there's tension, that you're overdoing. Can you relax the grip of the fingers, diminishing tension through the fingers, the knuckles and the hands? Still we're rolling the inner wrist, the thumb side of the wrist, in towards the head as the outer wrist, the little finger side of the wrist, drive down into the floor. As you press those outer wrists down, shoulder blades rebound up, away from the floor. And still we have that steady rhythm of breathing. Always come back to the expression of your breath. So we've got another 30 seconds or so before we've come to our 5-minute hold. We slowly start to make our way down. Keep the forearms driving down, shoulder blades lifting up. Whether you come down one leg at a time, whether you come down both legs together straight or bent, slowly bring your feet down. Separate the knees and let's come to our forward Virasana. So we have big toes touching, knees apart, and we'll rest the forehead down. Keep your arms forward so that there's space here in the armpit chest, there's space around the heart. The forehead can rest on the forearms or it can rest on the floor, but still you're keeping your arms forward. Observe the quality of your breath. Smooth, slow, steady breathing. Remember, we're wanting to cultivate a sense of being stable in our emotions. The breath is key. Let's bring some activation to the arms now in our Adho Mukha Virasana, our forward Virasana. Press through the hands, straighten the elbows, head can descend again. But as you squeeze the elbow tips in, feel the shoulder blades, the outer edges of the shoulder blades move inwards. But you're keeping space between the inner shoulder blades. Buttocks back and down, tailbone down. Thighs relax, buttocks relax, even though the arms are firm. And then you can make your way up. We move on to Salamba Sarvangasana, which is our shoulder stand. And from there, we're going to go to supported plough pose or Ardha Halasana. So we'll be needing the chair, but we'll also use the wall to lift ourselves up into shoulder stand, and we'll have the chair nearby. I have taken my mat into the wall. I've got my shoulder stand set up. So I have shoulder stand cushions and some blankets, and some of you may just be using blankets. You might not have those shoulder stand cushions, that's fine, as long as you have adequate height underneath the shoulders, and so then the head is down lower than the height of your shoulders. I like to put a blanket then so that it overlaps my setup from where the shoulders are going to be to where the head is, and also the front legs of the chair. I want to be able to pull the chair in closer to me as I come into Ardha Halasana. So the chair's not starting off right over the head, just a little bit out, and then we can pull it in. You'll also note I've got a couple of bricks here. That's acting as a spacer between my blanket setup and the wall, but also it will offer support to the back of the pelvis when we lie with the legs up the wall in preparation to come into shoulder stand. Depending on the length of your spine, relative to the height of your chair, you may need to add height to your chair. So if we consider the shoulders are here, the spine's lifting up, the pelvis will be here, and the legs are going to come over and rest onto the bolster. And you don't want to have the legs too low if you've got quite a long spine, because then you'll just feel congested and collapsed in the chest and potentially very uncomfortable in the neck and the spine. We'll also use a belt. So we make our loop in the belt, shoulder width apart. I often like to put the loop right over my thumbnail and then loop it underneath the elbow. That's a good measurement of what can be shoulder width there. So you put the belt there above your elbows, you measure the arm shoulder width. If you find it tricky to put the belt on when you're upside down, then you can loosen that so that the loop is a little bit wider. Let's come onto our back. So you take the back of the pelvis onto your bricks, swing the legs up the wall and bring the head down. Just remember you've got the chair there, you don't want to hurt yourself as you lie back. So shoulders are on the edge of your cushions and you put the belt on one arm, hold on to the other end of that loop as you're coming into the pose. So you can dig the elbows into your shoulder stand blankets and then press the feet into the wall, lift your hips up, walk your shoulders back so they don't slip off your cushions or your blankets, and press the hips forward. So as you walk your shoulders underneath you, you come to stand more on the tops of the shoulders, press the hips forward, away from the wall. Put the belt on. And again, you can press the upper arms into the floor, dig the upper arms down, lift your chest up. Make sure your shoulders have walked underneath you enough, as I said earlier, that you're standing on the tops of the shoulders. Then you can bring your hands onto your back ribs. Watch that you don't let your hips sink back, because then you'll lose the vertical line that we're looking for. So we want pelvis to press forward enough that the hands can come onto the back ribs. Support the lift of the back ribs. Stretch the skin on the back up. And then you can come off the wall. Come into your balance. Of course, if you're not so steady in your balance, you can keep your feet on the wall. But like our headstand, we want to bring those inner feet together, inner legs together. So here you'll be able to see your feet, provided you haven't got your chair too close to you so that it's sitting over the head. You bring the ankle bones, big toe bones together, you can see them. Press the inner feet up away from the groins. Peel the outer feet back down towards your outer hips. And as the inner thighs roll back, press your thighs back, but then press your buttocks forward. So as the buttocks press forward, direct your tailbone up. And again, we want to come into awareness of our breath. See, can we slow it down? Can we steady it? You don't have to look for particularly long, deep breaths, but a steadiness is what we're after. As the chest lifts, relax the throat. So the chest will lift and move towards the chin. The chin will soften towards the chest as the neck flexes here. But can you relax the throat? Again, keep coming back to awareness of your breath. Even notice the tongue. Relax the tongue in your mouth. Notice if it's pressing to the roof of the mouth. Can you relax it away from the roof of the mouth? Now, as we consider coming to Ardha Halasana, you might like to take your feet back to the wall and remove your belt. Stay up though, keep your hips up. You cast your gaze towards the chair. Keep your shoulders on your support. You might like to walk them back towards the wall again just to ensure they don't slip off, but make sure your head doesn't go up onto the height of your shoulder stand support. Bring the chair in closer to you. So you reach your hands over, chair comes in closer to you, so the chair will come over the head. You're still keeping the hips up. Then bring your hands back towards the wall or the floor behind you, so you're no longer holding the chair. Take one leg up, other leg up and over. Find the chair. Now, initially, we haven't fed the legs through the chair, but you've got to pull the hips back enough that you can feel the feet coming underneath the top of the chair as the thighs are coming onto the seat of the chair, onto your bolster or whatever extra height you've put there, if that's what you need. So use enough height underneath the root of the thigh so that the front body stays long. And then the spine is lifted, and there may be a very gentle flexion to the spine as the tailbone moves towards the heels. The shoulders can relax, the arms can relax. You can take the arms out so that the upper arms are out, we could say horizontal. If we say the length of our mat is vertical, then our arms are horizontal and our forearms are at a right angle to the upper arms. Back of the hands resting on the floor. The thighs relax onto your support. Now again, we've got that throat closure. It's known as Jalandhara Bandha, the throat lock or the chin lock, where the chin is pressing towards the sternum. The sternum is lifted towards the chin. But can you relax the throat, relax the jaw, and even relax the tongue? Now this is a passive pose, it's a restorative pose. There's no effort required. You should be able to relax and let go. If you're not feeling that, then perhaps you need to consider rearranging your props or giving yourself a bit more support. Notice your breath, easy breathing, but steady breathing. Before we come out of the pose, just take a moment to observe your state of being. Often doing restorative poses bring us into a state of feeling very quiet, very calm. The nerves are soothed. So observe that state. We try not to shake that state up by coming out roughly. We want to come out very slowly. So if you need to secure your bolster and the chair, just gently hold your hands on them as you walk your legs back. Take your feet out from underneath the top of the chair. And I suggest you bring your hands back towards the wall rather than holding the chair as you come down. Control your descent. You may like to push the chair away from you before you come down, just so that the head doesn't lift up and hit the chair. So that's definitely an option. You can push the chair away from you first, but you come down and then you will need to push the chair away from you so that you can slide your shoulders off your support. So head and shoulders resting on the floor and the hips, the pelvis resting on your shoulder stand support. The legs can either be up the wall with the heels on the wall, or you could rest the legs perhaps in simple cross legs with the outer feet and ankles on your bricks. If you do have the legs in simple cross legs, Just take a moment to swap the cross of the ankles. As you notice the breath, keep it slow and steady so you're still cultivating that quiet state of equanimity. When you're ready, then you can bring the knees together, carefully roll over to the right side, come off your support and come out of the pose. Inversions are a fantastic way to help to stabilize our emotions as well as balance our hormones. They're definitely an important aspect of our practice in the Iyengar method. I invite you to join me for more practice with full-length classes on my website in my video library, heatherkitchenyoga.com.au. There are many different categories to choose from. You can work with specifically inversion type classes that work with inversions, or standing poses, or forward bends, or back bends, or there's gentle classes, there's therapeutic classes. You're invited to start with a 7-day free trial. That's it for today. Thanks for joining me. For more in-depth teaching, check out the video library on my website, heatherkitchenyoga.com.au. The link is in the description box below.